"Sign here," she said, like it was a contract for cable, not the end of our marriage. Then she demanded the house, my pension, and child support, even though our son stayed with me. I hadn't even processed the slap when I heard her laugh later that week. Light, flirty. Outside our bedroom, another man's voice whispered her name. Not only had she already moved on, she'd used our joint account to pay for their hotel getaways. I was supposed to just roll over, sign, vanish. But I didn't. I documented every lie, every receipt, and with 6 weeks till court, I built a case so airtight, even her lawyer choked on it. What happened next? Let's just say she should have read the fine print. My name is David Mercer, and I'm 45 years old. I've worked construction for 23 years, keeping the same routine. Coffee at 5:30 a.m., packed lunch, toolbox checked and rechecked before leaving. My wife Claire and I built a modest life in a small ranch-style home where our son Darren has grown up, now just months from high school graduation. The garage still smells of sawdust and WD-40, a testament to weekends spent fixing whatever needed repair. My hands are calloused from work, my filing cabinet meticulously organized, every receipt, every bill, every statement carefully preserved. My friend Mark, a forensic accountant, always jokes that I treat paperwork like sacred texts. Numbers don't lie, he'd say. And I'd nod, understanding that truth runs deeper than spoken words. But lately, something feels different. Claire's glances have grown distant, her phone more interesting than conversation. The silence between us isn't comfortable anymore. It's a pressure building, waiting to crack. But let me start from the beginning. The kitchen always smelled like rosemary and lemon when Claire made her signature chicken casserole. But tonight, the steam fogging the window felt different. Cold. Alien. "I've lost feelings for you, David," she said, her voice flat and practiced, like she'd rehearsed this moment 100 times in her head. My hands, the same hands that had rebuilt our kitchen cabinets, fixed the leaky sink, patched every hole in these walls, now gripped the edge of the wooden table. The casserole sat half-eaten, steam rising in lazy curls between us. Claire slid a stack of papers across the wood. Separation terms. Neat, typed, clinical. Her finger tapped a line itemizing her demands. The house, half my pension, child support, even though Darren spent most weekends with me. I didn't interrupt, didn't argue. Just listened to the rhythm of her words, searching for something. Emotion, regret, anything. There was nothing. That evening, I called Richard Holloway, our family lawyer for the past 15 years. His voice was measured, professional. Confession followed by separation filing? Classic progression, David. These things move fast. Fast, I echoed. Like thunder after lightning, he said. Get your documents in order. Bank statements, tax returns, everything. After hanging up, I settled onto the living room couch. The leather, which I'd bought 8 years ago during a rare splurge, felt unfamiliar. The dishwasher hummed in the kitchen, its cycles sounding like a metronome counting down the moments of our marriage. Before dawn, I was awake. Paperwork spread across the kitchen counter, reading and rereading separation clauses, exclusive use of rooms I'd personally repaired. My wrench, the one I'd used to fix the kitchen sink last summer, sat nearby, suddenly feeling more like a metaphorical tool than a mechanical one. The drying rack caught my eye. Claire's wedding ring was conspicuously absent. When I looked up, she was there, a pen balanced between 2 fingers. A single line at the bottom of a document waited. "Sign here," she said. A week after Claire's separation announcement, I caught her laughing outside our bedroom. Her voice was different, lighter, more intimate. Through the partially open door, I heard a younger male voice murmur, "Claire," like it was a secret password. My hand froze mid-folding a work shirt. I'd always been meticulous about tracking our schedules. Claire's calendar had a curious entry from 2 months back. Team off-site, Portland. Strange thing was, no photos ever surfaced. No team emails shared. Just that single, isolated notation. The next morning, a partial email preview caught my eye while she was brewing coffee. A name. Jason Reynolds. Marketing department, about 10 years younger than me. Something clicked. I pulled up our shared rideshare account. There they were. Midnight pickups from downtown hotels. Receipts time-stamped well past reasonable team-building hours. Confirmation landed like a cold stone in my gut. An affair. Not just a fleeting crush, but something calculated, deliberate. But I wouldn't explode. Wouldn't give her that satisfaction. I'd collect, document, wait. The court notice arrived 3 days later. A crisp envelope that felt weighted with potential energy. First hearing scheduled 6 weeks out. The paper seemed to divide my life into 2 distinct periods. Before and after. I pulled out my wall calendar, the one with lighthouse scenes Claire had picked out years ago, and circled the hearing date in sharp, decisive red. Around each weekend I'd spent with our son Darren, I carefully marked additional notations. Proof of consistent caregiving. Documentation of my presence. I sat with those papers as afternoon light slowly drained from the room. The refrigerator's motor clicked off, creating a sudden silence that felt almost tactical. The court notice sat before me, a document that now represented more than just legal proceedings. It was a map, a strategy. I lifted the paper again, wondering, if truth is a lever, where exactly is the fulcrum? I started my audit like I'd tackle any home repair. Methodically, with precision. My home office became a war room. Computer screen glowing in the quiet evening hours after Darren had gone to bed. Bank portals first. Digital statements spread across dual monitors like reconnaissance maps. I opened each account, checking, savings, credit cards, and began downloading every statement from the past 18 months. My printer hummed steadily, churning out pages I'd systematically highlight. Yellow marker in hand, I tracked each suspicious charge. A boutique hotel charge from 9 months ago caught my eye immediately. Billed on a Wednesday. Midweek. Midday. Who takes a midweek hotel booking without explanation? I created a new spreadsheet, tab labeled unshared spending in neat block letters. Each entry felt like pressing a fresh bruise. Lunch charges minutes after late meetings. Corporate card expenses that didn't match any reasonable work description. The numbers started adding up, not just dollars, evidence. I remembered Mark, my accountant friend, always saying, numbers don't lie. People do. By midnight, I had a preliminary file. Precise. Calm. Nothing emotional. Just cold, hard documentation. I drafted a note to our lawyer, Thomas Reyes, flagging these provisional exhibits and asking about legal admissibility. My fingers hovered over one particular PDF. Seaside Retreat Hotel charged to Claire's corporate card. A personal transfer from our joint account appeared the very next morning. I whispered to myself, if this is smoke, where's the fire? Would you like me to clarify something before I draft the response? Your instructions seem to have a few potential interpretation points. Is all of that correct? And just to confirm, you want me to pick up directly from the end of the previous scene I just wrote, continuing David's methodical investigation and preparation. Would you confirm these points so I can draft the most precise response possible? I'll draft the scene following the precise instructions, maintaining David Mercer's first-person perspective, and hitting the specific narrative beats. My hand was shaking when I reached for that settlement pen. Not from anger, from exhaustion. 21 years of marriage reduced to legal paper, and I was ready to sign away everything just to stop the constant ache grinding through my chest. I imagined walking away, smaller, lighter, defeated. Just another statistic of a marriage that quietly collapsed. Then my phone lit up. Mark. Mark wasn't just an accountant. He was the kind of friend who'd survived 2 divorces without ever making a dramatic show of it. Where most guys would rant and rage, Mark just calculated. Numbers were his language, and he spoke them fluently. Stop, he said, before I could even explain. No greeting, just that single command. Stop what? I asked. Signing. Whatever you're about to sign. I'd barely mentioned the settlement, but Mark already understood. He'd heard the defeat in my voice during our last coffee meetup, watched me shuffle papers with that hollow look men get when they're about to surrender. Numbers make quiet witnesses, he said, and timing trumps volume in those courtrooms. Something shifted inside me. The humiliation I'd been carrying, this sense of being discarded, of being less than, started to recede. In its place grew something harder, something my father would have recognized. Pure, cold stubbornness. I'm sending you everything, I told him. I granted Mark read-only access to our joint accounts, uploaded the unshared spending spreadsheet I'd meticulously constructed. Each highlighted line was evidence, not just of Claire's affair, but of systematic financial deceit. The settlement pen went into the drawer like a weapon being locked away. Dangerous, temporary. I texted my lawyer, hold all settlement discussions. Outside, wind threaded through the eaves of a house I'd built with my own hands. Quiet. Waiting. Mark's final message pinged, give me 72 hours. 72 hours. What if that changed everything? Mark worked like a digital forensics expert, except his crime scene was our financial history. I watched him slice through bank statements with a surgeon's precision, except his scalpel was an Excel spreadsheet, not a medical instrument. "Look here," he said, tapping his screen. His finger landed on duplicate hotel charges, split cunningly between Claire's corporate account and our joint funds. Clever. Too clever. Rideshare. Receipts told another story. Each timestamp mapped a route from her office to waterfront addresses that had nothing to do with work. My chest tightened, but not with pain anymore. Something colder. Something that felt like clarity. Mark requested loyalty program exports, those innocent-looking point systems corporations use. His cursor highlighted entries. 2 guests checked into hotels during weekends I'd spent at home fixing gutters, replacing shingles, maintaining the life I thought we shared. "David," Mark said quietly, "these aren't just trips. These are calculated financial movements." I watched numbers transform from abstract figures into evidence. Each line item became a brick in a structure of betrayal I was only now seeing clearly. Shame, that old companion I'd been wrestling, started transmuting into something sharper, understanding. Mark's fingers flew across the keyboard, highlighting fund transfers that preceded every claimed off-site work event. Corporate email confirmations revealed romance package upgrades, complete with champagne and late checkout. Not just an affair. Not just betrayal. This was theft, masked as professional perks. I walked to my printer and pulled out a fresh binder. Labeled it Funds Trail in block letters. Organized tabs by month, chronological and precise. My hands didn't shake anymore. They were steady, methodical. "Mark," I asked, the question spiking my adrenaline. "Is this fraud?" Mark leaned back in my kitchen chair, his accountant's eyes gleaming with a strategist's precision. "We're not just presenting facts," he said. "We're constructing a narrative that collapses her entire story. Our courtroom rhythm would be surgical. Let her lawyer paint me as the distant, work-obsessed husband first, then we'd slide forward receipts that would demolish that carefully constructed myth." My lawyer, Tom Reynolds, arrived the next afternoon. Gray at the temples, he'd seen more marital implosions than most therapists. He reviewed our documentation with a practiced eye, turning pages methodically. "Timing is everything," Tom cautioned. "If we show our hand too early, Claire's team will manufacture a counter-narrative." Mark nodded. "Exactly. We need her counsel to overreach, to make claims we can instantly demolish with hard evidence." I practiced my courtroom demeanor in the mirror. Calm. Measured. Say nothing unless directly asked. Each exhibit was a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. I'd learned that from years of precision work in my trade. Every bolt tightened just right, every measurement exact. We color-coded the documentation. Yellow for travel receipts, blue for financial transfers, red for the most damning evidence. Those corporate perks used for personal romantic getaways. "Remember," Mark said, sliding another stack of printouts across my kitchen table, "we're not just proving an affair. We're showing systematic financial fraud." Tom reviewed the documentation, making occasional notes. "Her corporate account shows these transfers? That changes everything." I thought about our son. He didn't need to see this ugliness, but he deserved the truth. Every document was a promise to him that I wouldn't let our family story be rewritten by convenient lies. We spent hours rehearsing potential scenarios. What if her lawyer claimed the transfers were business expenses? What if they tried to paint me as financially unstable? Each potential argument got a precisely crafted response, backed by dated, time-stamped evidence. I created duplicate binders, storing them in separate locations. One set with Tom, one in my home safe, one in Mark's office. Redundancy was protection. My calendar now had a series of precise alerts: hearing check-in time, last document review, arrival protocols. Each notification felt like a countdown to something larger than just a legal proceeding. As evening fell, I zipped my briefcase. Rows of perfectly organized documents waited inside, each tab a potential turning point. I looked at Mark and Tom. Can surgical timing actually flip a courtroom? The question hung in the air, weighted with possibility. The night before the hearing, I transformed my kitchen table into a war room. Each document got positioned with the same precision I'd use aligning cabinet hinges. Methodical. Purposeful. Mark sat across from me, his reading glasses reflecting spreadsheet columns like tiny screens of financial truth. "We're checking every single transfer again," he muttered, fingers dancing across his laptop keyboard. One misplaced decimal could compromise everything. I nodded, understanding that preparation wasn't just about having evidence. It was about having evidence that was unimpeachable. My hands moved automatically, numbering exhibit tabs, clipping related documents. typing summary sheets in a calm, 12-point font that looked as neutral as a court stenographer's transcript. Tom, my lawyer, reviewed my opening stance. Remember, he said, say nothing they don't directly ask. Volunteer nothing. I wrote a single line on an index card in block letters. Answer only the question. I tucked it beside my passport in my briefcase, a small ritual that grounded me, like checking my tool belt before a complex renovation job. My son texted good night. I responded, promising pancakes after court. A normal dad moment that cut through the tension. Chocolate chips? He wrote back. Obviously, I replied, letting that ordinary promise anchor me to something larger than this legal battle. Sleep came in short, sharp waves. Every rustle of sheets felt like a rehearsal, every dream a potential courtroom scenario. I'd wake, check the clock, then drift back. A restless tide of anticipation. Dawn arrived soft and gray. I dressed methodically. Navy suit pressed the night before, white shirt crisp, shoes polished to a quiet shine. My movements were deliberate, each action a small act of control in a situation that had long felt uncontrollable. The coffee tasted bitter. I sipped it on the front porch, watching the neighborhood wake up. A jogger passed, a neighbor I'd known for years, completely unaware of the legal storm about to break. The normalcy was almost surreal. My binders sat stacked by the door, organized, waiting. Each one represented months of careful investigation, of pain transformed into precise documentation. I locked the house, feeling the weight of my briefcase. The morning air was cool, carrying a hint of late spring. Fresh, with possibility. The courthouse steps approached. Doors buzzed open, revealing the hallway where our story would pivot. I was ready. The courtroom felt simultaneously vast and claustrophobic. Claire's lawyer, a polished woman in a slate-gray suit, stood with the practiced confidence of someone who knew how to sculpt narratives from raw emotion. Your Honor, she began, her voice pitched to sound reasonable and measured. My client has dedicated 21 years to this marriage. 21 years of supporting a husband who was consistently absent, prioritizing work over family. I kept my eyes fixed on the wooden table's grain, watching how the light caught each minute. Imperfection. My fingers brushed against the index card in my pocket. Answer only the question. A silent mantra. The lawyer continued, her words carefully constructed. Mrs. Mercer has been the primary emotional anchor for their son, managing household responsibilities while Mr. Mercer worked extended hours. She seeks support in the family home to maintain stability during this challenging transition. Challenging transition. The phrase landed like a calculated knife thrust. My lawyer, Tom, sat immobile beside me. His silence was strategic, a dam holding back the flood of evidence we'd assembled. I watched the judge, a woman in her early 60s with sharp, observant eyes, making notations. Each pen stroke felt like a potential verdict. Claire sat 2 tables away, her posture rigid but carefully composed. She nodded periodically, reinforcing her lawyer's narrative of martyrdom. Each nod triggered a mental cross-reference in my mind, matching her claims against the documentation Mark and I had meticulously compiled. A hotel receipt from 13 months ago. A corporate credit card charge for a team-building retreat that was clearly something else entirely. Rideshare records showing late-night pickups. Bank transfers that told a story far different from the one being presented. The heat rising in my chest wasn't just anger, it was a slow-burning fuel of injustice, transforming into something precise and controlled. Tom leaned close, his breath barely a whisper. Wait, he murmured. Let her finish. Let her climb higher. And so I waited. Watched. Listened. Claire's lawyer described a husband who was emotionally distant, a provider who had somehow failed by providing. She painted me as a workaholic who had slowly eroded the marriage through neglect, positioning Claire as a patient, long-suffering wife who had finally reached her breaking point. The judge continued taking notes, her pen moving with clinical detachment. Mrs. Mercer seeks not just financial support, the lawyer concluded, but recognition of her years of unacknowledged emotional labor. A final dramatic pause. A moment of performative vulnerability, then silence. The judge looked up, her gaze sweeping across the room before settling directly on me. Mr. Mercer, she said, your response? I closed my fingers around the index card, feeling its crisp edges. My other hand touched the tab labeled Timeline Contradictions, and I stood. Here's the continuation, strictly following the instructions. I spread the first set of documents across the table. Crisp, precise, each page a calculated strike. Your Honor, I began, my voice steady. These are loyalty program redemptions for boutique hotels. Dates here show 2 guests checked in during periods my wife claims she was at work-related off-sites. I placed rideshare receipts alongside the hotel confirmations. Each document lined up like precision tools, matching timestamps, matching locations. Note these rideshare records from her office address to waterfront hotels. These aren't occasional trips. They're a pattern spanning multiple years. The judge leaned forward, tracking my presentation with her pen. Her eyebrows raised slightly. Not dramatically, but with a clinical precision that suggested she was absorbing every detail. Claire's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Her earlier performance of righteous indignation was crumbling, page by methodical page. I continued, sliding bank statements forward. These transfers from our joint account directly fund these trips. Corporate perks supplemented by personal funds, all without my knowledge. Each document landed with a soft, deliberate tap. The room felt suddenly airless, compressed by the weight of accumulated evidence. The emails came next. Personal correspondence that left no room for misinterpretation. Messages exchanged between Claire and her coworker that revealed not a recent disconnection, but a sustained, calculated betrayal. These communications demonstrate this wasn't a sudden loss of feelings, I said. This was a planned departure, financial and emotional. I watched the judge's pen move, noting dates, cross-referencing timelines. Claire's lawyer began frantically flipping pages, searching for a narrative thread that was rapidly unraveling. Claire herself had stopped looking confident. Her gaze was fixed on a corner of the table, as if willing an escape hatch to materialize. The final tab, siphon pattern, slid forward. I said nothing more. Silence expanded in the courtroom. Even the ambient courthouse sounds seemed to recede. The judge looked up. "Counsel," she addressed Claire's lawyer. "These are significant contradictions. Your earlier statements about a gradual separation do not align with these documents. Explain." Claire's lawyer fumbled. Her rehearsed speech about emotional distance and growing apart had been surgically dismantled by timestamps and transfer records. "Your Honor," she began, then stopped, shuffled papers. Found nothing. The judge's pen tapped once, decisively. "I'm calling a recess to review these exhibits in chambers," she announced. I sat down. My palms were cold, not from nerves, but from the clinical precision of exposure. Mark leaned close. "Let the paper speak," he whispered. When the judge returned, her voice carried the precision of a surgeon closing an operation. Each ruling landed like carefully placed sutures, repairing the wounds of my fractured life. "Spousal support is denied," she stated. "Given the documented financial misrepresentations, Ms. Mercer will not receive support." I watched Claire's face, a landscape of shock slowly hardening into something between embarrassment and disbelief. Her lawyer shuffled papers, attempting to maintain some semblance of professional composure. The judge continued, "The financial irregularities will be referred to the appropriate investigative bodies. Property division will be determined based on fairness, not fantasy." Fantasy. The word hung in the air like a judgment. "Thank you, Your Honor," I said, my voice clear and controlled. Claire's counsel attempted a last-minute pivot, mumbling about further discussions and potential appeals, but their words felt like paper boats against a rising tide. Nothing would change. The essential truth now exposed. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt the afternoon sun, warm, almost celebratory, wash over me. My phone buzzed. "Mark, HR at Claire's company just requested clarifications." His text read. I didn't respond. No response was necessary. The next few days settled into a rhythm of quiet victory. Dinners with my son became moments of unexpected lightness. One morning, attempting pancakes, I managed to create something between a scramble and a disc that somehow made him laugh. "Dad," he said, between bites of my culinary disaster, "these are something else." I grinned. These imperfect moments tasted sweeter than any perfectly plated meal. By week's end, subtle shifts confirmed what the courtroom had declared. Claire's company photo vanished from their website. A text from a colleague, someone who'd known us both, revealed the younger man was now wanting space. I looked around our living room. The walls suddenly felt ready for color. The weeks following the courthouse victory became a choreography of legal precision and personal restoration. My lawyer confirmed the final orders. I'd keep the house, maintain primary custody with the schedule we'd always shared, and my pension remained untouched. Each document felt like a reclaimed piece of my life. Saturday morning, I drove to the hardware store. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I selected rollers, drop cloths, and paint swatches. My son tagged along, more interested in his phone but present. A quiet solidarity I'd come to appreciate. Pick a color, I told him, spreading the fan of options across a display table. This is your space too. He looked up, surprise flickering across his face. We hadn't redecorated since before everything changed. He chose a warm yellow, bright, but not aggressive. Sunlight and optimism captured in a paint can. I remembered my own father teaching me to paint. How each stroke was a kind of promise. How walls could hold memories, but could also be transformed. Back home, I prepped the living room. Sunlight made geometric patterns on the hardwood, dust motes dancing where tension had once lived. My phone pinged. An email from the lawyer. The investigation into Claire's financial irregularities had been formally referred. Public fallout was imminent. My son helped, more engaged than I'd expected. He laid drop cloths with a precision that made me proud, catching my eye with a half-smile that said more than words. "Steady now," I said, positioning the ladder. A paint drop landed like a comet on the tarp, and he laughed, a sound I'd missed during the months of tension. I started rolling color over the wall. This wall had framed Claire's confession, had been a silent witness to our marriage's unraveling. Now it would frame something different, a life rebuilt by choices, not accusations. Each roller stroke felt like a statement. Clean, deliberate, transformative. When we stepped back, the room had changed. Brighter, clearer. The yellow captured something between hope and determination, a color that refused to be subdued. I held the paintbrush upright beside the clean wall, a simple symbol of everything we'd survived. "Respect," I said to my son, "can't be stolen, it must be earned."